Da Rope Break family, you are watching the only podcast for wrestling that matters. I am your host, Jean Paul Laec, and this is Rope Break. So, Wednesday night in the books, you know what that means. 4 hours of fantastic wrestling was last night. NXT, AEW. Of course, this is your Dynamite review. And before we get into it, just want to thank, like always, you guys know the spiel by now. All the new subscribers, all the old subscribers. Two new subscribers, I want to thank Eric and Derek. Juan and I, we met them last weekend. Two, awesome dudes. They subscribed to the podcast, so we definitely want to thank them. And, like I said, I want to thank all the old subscribers, everyone who's been here from, the dark ages, when Rope Break first began to where we are now. We feel like we're so much, in a better place. We have the right mindset and everything going forward. We're definitely excited for the future. And speaking of that, we had the interview with Cha Cha Charlie. If you haven't seen that already, go check that out. And Cha Cha, he told a bunch of his colleagues about us, showed them the interview. They were excited, and they want to have a interview with Rope Break as well. So we're definitely going to be interviewing some of the people who he wrestles. So we're going to be covering all the indie scene, and eventually maybe get some retired wrestlers and some current wrestlers in bigger promotions as well. So like I said, the sky's the limit for Rope Break. So let's get into the Dynamite review. And it was a good show. I really don't have much to kind of nitpick this week. There's a few things here and there, but overall I felt like this was a really good show building towards a revolution. And we started off with the AEW Tag Team Championship match. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page versus SCU. So before this match can even begin, of course, Dynamite, they get right into the action. This was the opening match. Both teams are already in the ring. And then we get a preview, the Dark Order. They appear on the screen, and Evil Uno says that they're preparing for the arrival of the Exalted One, and when the time is right, they will strike. So Christopher Daniels is, of course, out there with SCU, and he's like, because he's the one who they were really targeting the past couple weeks, he's like, screw this, I'm going to go look for this guy. Like, you guys do what I know you can do, and that's wrestle. He's like, I'm going to go check this out. So he leaves the ringside, and then it's Kenny and Kazarian. They start the match, elbow collar tie up. Kenny sends Kazarian off the ropes. Kazarian answers with a shoulder block. Kenny pops up and hits a deep arm drag on Kazarian. Kenny bounces off the ropes. Scorpio Sky kicks Kenny from behind. Then Kazarian hits Kenny with a release German suplex before knocking Hangman off the apron and then getting a cover on Kenny for 2. And then Sky tags in, and Kazarian looked to hit SCU later on Kenny, but Page clotheslines Kazarian out of the ring. Sky is also knocked out of the ring, and Kenny gets pumped up. He goes for a dive, but Sky grabs one leg and does a dive of his own onto Page. So then Kenny gets up and he hits a dive himself onto Kazarian, and then throws Sky back in the ring to hit a Fisherman Buster and then go for the pin, but Sky kicks out at 2. So then later on in the match, both members of SCU come after Omega, but he leaps over and is finally able to tag in Hangman Page. Page comes in, and he's like a house on fire. He hits some big boots on both Sky and Kazarian. Page clotheslines both men in the corner. Sky falls from the corner into the center of the ring, and Page hits a standing moonsault on him. Sky then tries to send Page to the outside, but Page stops on the apron and then tries to hit a buckshot layered onto Sky, but he moves out of the way, and Kazarian instead hits a big clothesline. Excuse me. Then Page gets up and he gets nailed with a cutter from Scorpio, and then Kenny tries to come in the ring, but he gets hit with a cutter himself, and then they try for the double submission like a dragon sleeper, but Kenny, he gets out of it, and he like kind of falls over and throws Sky, into Hangman, and then breaks that submission as well. I believe it was Scorpio Sky was on Kenny. If not, it was Kazarian, and he threw Kazarian into Sky to break up the submission on Page. It was one of the two. And then pretty much, everything breaks down like these matches usually do. But Page and Omega, they come out with sending Sky to the outside, and then they hit a buckshot lariat V-trigger combination on Frankie Kazarian for the 1-2-3. So pretty much like every AEW, the opening match is usually the greatest thing on the show. Sometimes the main event is a little better, but usually the opening match is great. When they go right into a match, like the other week when they had the Fatal 4-Way tag team match and everything. These opening matches are just so great. And this one, it was the same thing. You had 4 dudes who were extremely, extremely talented. There's no way that this couldn't have been a good match. And they all, they showed up. And I think the right team won. Juan was thinking SCU was going to win, and then that would maybe, further the Page and Omega feud. And I think that will happen later on, because that definitely with what they are saying is going to happen in the next couple weeks. But I think, it'll be some. I don't like. To me, it didn't make sense for them to just lose it back to SCU. I see them losing it to a team like the Young Bucks, because that's the story. The Young Bucks are kind of pissed off at Hangman, and he's mocking them, saying, "Oh, here are your nameplates for the tag team belts. Hold on to them, because that's all you'll have for a while, because we're not losing these belts." And he said, "I was surprised that him and Kenny won the belts before them." So to me, that's where the story is. But then after the match, the Dark Order, they come out, and then Chuck Taylor and Trent are soon to follow. And then you get the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny coming out, and then TH2 comes out, and then finally the Young Bucks. So all these teams are in the ring, and they're just all beating the hell out of each other. The tag teams are flying everywhere. Of course, the Young Bucks are getting the super kicks on all the heels, and they're the teams that's really, standing tall here. But they're with their friends, SCU and the Best Friends, that's all like the face teams. They clear the ring. The Butcher and the Blade come in, and they send the Best Friends out, but the Young Bucks retaliate, sending them out of the ring. And then Matt and Nick Jackson get up on the top turnbuckles and fly to the outside onto all the teams. So like I said, they said that this is like, tag team chaos. Looks like a tag team battle royal, and that would hint at a match that they're announcing later on. But I'll get to that when they announce all the matches in the next coming weeks. I have that in the notes, so we'll save that. Then we get a short, but I thought good video segment for Darby Allin. He's standing there. You kind of just see his skateboard in his hands, and he has like notes written on, looks like pieces of cardboard. And he's like, says little signs like, "You dropped me. You dropped my neck onto my skateboard." And he's like, "I'm coming for you. When I find you, it's all over." And he says like Sammy Guevara is like a dirty ass kisser or something like that. It said on the notes, but the whole time he's just doing like that coughing thing. So it's like he can't really talk, even though I don't think we've heard him talk before. But now he just has that real guttural cough. And they just had this like kind of somber-y, like creepy-ish kind of music playing in the background. It was all in black and white, so I know Juan loved that. I thought it was good. And like I said, it was short, it was sweet, and it's setting up the match for him and Sammy at Revolution, where obviously Darby Allin is going to win, but it should be a hell of a match, because both of those guys, given the time and with their talent alone, will put on nothing less than a 4-star classic. So then, speaking of Sammy Guevara, we get Sammy Guevara with, of course, Jake Hager versus Dustin Rhodes. So to go through this match, Dustin starts out real strong, hitting Sammy with a series of clotheslines before hitting Sammy with a big knee and then going for a cover, but Sammy kicks out and rolls to the outside. Dustin cuts him off with a clothesline on the outside and then steps right to the face of Jake Hager. That's the real money match. That's the story for me, is him and Jake Hager. We've seen this match before with Sammy, but this was kind of just the blow off of this mini feud, I feel. Dustin then throws Sammy back into the ring, and he gets on the apron. Sammy nails him with an enziguri. As Dustin tries to get up from the outside, Sammy flies through the middle ropes onto Dustin, and then back in the ring, Sammy runs right after Dustin, but Dustin explodes with a power slam onto Sammy, and then he starts to climb the ropes, but he's distracted by Hager, so Sammy interrupts him and puts him on his shoulders before hitting a flip go to sleep. Sammy then goes up top, but Dustin, he cuts him off, and then he throws him off the top ropes, and then he jumps from the middle rope and hits a Panama Sunrise before nailing the final reckoning and picking up the victory. So, it was a decent match. Dustin, for his age and everything he does, I'm not going to complain. You know what I mean? The guy, he can still go, and, what he does in the ring, it looks good. He won't give you a different and a new exciting match every time. He pretty much does the same things. But at his age, I'm not going to complain, because those things that he does, he still does them well. And like I said, the right person won here, because we don't want to see these two going back and forth. We want to see Dustin Rhodes against Jake Hager. And after the match, that pretty much sets this up. So Dustin, he goes to the mic and he calls out Jake Hager, and he calls him Jericho's bitch. And he asks if he's ever going to step in the ring or if he's going to just collect a paycheck. And he says that Hager broke his arm and he wants a piece of his ass at Revolution. So Hager dead stares at Dustin and walks to the ring, and then walks back up the ramp and out of the arena. So hopefully we get that match. And I don't know if they're going to break apart the Inner Circle and do all that, but I feel like at Revolution it's going to be the downfall of the Inner Circle. Just like how at Portland it's the downfall of the Undisputed Era, I think at Revolution it's going to be the downfall of the Inner Circle. So then here's a part of the show that I didn't really care for. We get another interview segment between Tony Schiavone and Britt Baker. Please let this be the last one. I don't understand what they're doing here with Britt Baker. If, I feel like they're going to play hot potato with this women's title. I feel like she's going to win it soon, and that's kind of why they're putting so much focus on her. But Tony Schiavone, he's at the top of the ramp, and he says that he's going to talk to Britt Baker, and he starts to ask how she can justify what she did to Yuka last week. Remember what I said, where she broke her teeth, but you could clearly see somebody handed her the fake blood packet and the fake teeth and all this stuff. So it just wasn't a good filmed segment. That's the thing. They still got to work on that fine-tuned camera work. And then Baker says how that the tooth had severe decay, so it was going to come out anyway, and she doesn't even know her, and she extracted her tooth for free, so that, she's like, hey, I'm a nice person. And then Britt is asked about the upcoming match between Nyla Rose and Riho, and she says that she will still be number 2, or that they will still be number 2 to her. She's the number 1 woman because she says that, there's some confusion with these, her words were chubby Whataburger faces of the crowd there in Texas, and because she says that she's a dentist, she has several degrees, and she's the first woman signed to AEW, so she's here to make a statement. That's why she says she's number 1, and Riho, Nyla Rose, everyone else is number 2 or worse compared to her number 1. So then speaking of that, we get the AEW Women's Championship match, Riho versus Nyla Rose. But I guess just to comment on this thing, what I didn't say, just going what I didn't say before it, to me, Britt Baker, like the heel thing, I don't know, like, it's all right. It's definitely not the worst thing we've seen, but it's like, you got to do something. Like now, like she has to challenge for the women's championship. At least I don't want to see her keep getting interviewed by Tony Schiavone every other week. That's getting boring because she's not that good on the mic. So she doesn't, say different things. She says the same thing every single time she goes out there, and it's like, that gets boring real quick. She's not Adam Cole, as much as she tries to, emulate him, it doesn't come off the same. So we need to see her more in the ring than on the microphone. But then to start this match, like I said, the AEW Women's Championship match, this actually wasn't a bad match. Riho and Nyla Rose definitely have some good chemistry. Riho, she played the role. She's better in a role like versus the monsters like this, I feel. I don't know. Like, just this, I think, was the best match that she had in AEW, if I'm being honest with you. But to take you through the match, Rose comes in strong, but Riho shows her speed. Quickly with a low drop kick, Riho tries to climb on top of Nyla Rose, but she counters with a Samoan drop. And then Nyla puts Rose on the top rope, hanging, and then Nyla climbs to the top, and she nails a right knee to the back of Riho's neck. Nyla goes for a cover, but Riho kicks out at 2. And then Nyla puts Riho on her shoulders and starts to climb up to the second rope. Riho starts to fight back, but Nyla bites at the face of Riho before hitting an avalanche Death Valley driver. And Nyla goes for the cover for a near fall, which that was a really good spot, the Death Valley driver. I mean, I knew she was going to kick out of it just because of like how early it was in the match, but it was, a great spot. And then Nyla puts Riho on her shoulders, and she looks to hit a one-winged angel, but Riho slips out, and she hits a Snapdragon suplex, and then she hits a second Snapdragon before going to the top and hitting a double stomp onto Nyla. Then she climbs up again, hitting a second and then a third to the face of Nyla. Then Riho goes for the cover, but Nyla gets a foot on the ropes. And then Riho is frustrated and goes to the corner and runs at Riho, but Nyla counters with a spear. And she picks up Riho and then hits her with a massive sit-out powerbomb to pick up the victory. So, like I said, it was a good match, and I think, the fans, they wanted it. They wanted Riho to, to lose the championship. And, to Nyla Rose, I don't know what Nyla Rose is going to do to really make the division better. At least, she'll be on TV more often, I'm sure. And there was a backstage thing with her and Kenny. I don't know if it happened right after this or soon after this, before the next match, but there was Kenny was with Riho, and her and Kenny were kind of mouthing off. It was the picture-in-picture, Nyla Rose and Kenny, so you couldn't really hear what they were saying, but the spot where she got her where she got her foot on the ropes. It made me think back to the first match, actually, where right at the end when they hit that V-trigger knee on Kazarian, he actually grabbed the ropes, but it was after the 3 count. So they're not, like, it was a weird spot where I don't know if that was what it was supposed to be, but if you watch it, the ref counts 1, 2, 3, and as his hand is like hitting the 3 count, Kazarian's hand is going up, and it's maybe half a second later he grabs the ropes. So I don't know if that was mistimed and they didn't really play that up too much. Like, I don't even think that they mentioned that he grabbed the ropes, but it was like too late and they didn't really try to focus on it. So I don't know if that was a botch or what that was. I actually forgot to put that in the notes. I forgot to mention that. But I guess I shouldn't say I forgot to mention it because I mentioned it here, but at the time going over that match. So that was, I guess, because like I said, it didn't really affect it, and there wasn't like a third or second rematch, in the works. They didn't announce anything like that, but we saw that again here, or else Riho would have won. But Nyla Rose is the new women's champion, and like I said, we'll see what it does. I think maybe Britt Baker is going to soon challenge her, but Nyla Rose, I'd like to see her maybe have a title defense against Shauna, because her and Shauna had some feuds going on at AEW Dark, and it was a little bit on AEW Dynamite, so I would definitely maybe like to see her, get some title defenses. I don't like to see hot potato. Riho held the title for a couple months. She was the inaugural women's champion. That was good for her. And even though she could have been on TV more, and in this match here, hitting the Snapdragon suplexes and stuff like that, it made me like appreciate her a little more. It's like, but why couldn't we have seen this from the beginning? Because clearly she didn't just learn that move. Clearly she had all this stuff in her arsenal, and people are like, oh, you should watch her stuff in Stardom or Shimmer or watch her wrestle in Japan. And it's like, I shouldn't have to. She's on this show and she's their champion. She should be showing her full arsenal of moves. But it's it's too little too late. Maybe they can rebuild her. I'm sure she'll be a champion again for AEW. But like I said, Nyla Rose is a new champ, so let's see where this goes. So then we get a backstage interview with Jericho, and he says he's disgusted by Moxley and what he did to Santana. So after Santana is going to take him apart this week, and next week he's going to be taken apart by Jeff Cobb. So boom, we see a little video package for Jeff Cobb. He signed with AEW and signed to the Inner Circle, or not signed, but like he's part of the Inner Circle now. And then Jericho says that Moxley will get a tour of the islands on his way to Revolution. Soon after that, we get a video package recapping Cody and the MJF angle. Of course, the whipping, the lashing, and everything from last week. And then we get Brandy Rhodes on commentary, total babyface now, and she said that she's given an apology for her previous behavior. Everything that happened with Cody, kind of changed her. And then she says, the commentary desk, they're like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. It's all water under the bridge, this and that. And that's because they gave up on the Nightmare Collective angle. They clearly saw it wasn't resonating with the fans. The fans were like, who the hell is Mel? Who's Luther? Who's all these people? Awesome Kong, like I said, spinning back fist. That's the only thing she can do. Nobody really cared, and Brandy's not a good wrestler. Nobody really cared about this at all. So the main thing it was, let's just get this storyline over with. But instead of using it to get women over, you could have had Chris Statlander, Shauna. You could have had any of these women maybe beat Brandy, beat Awesome Kong, or beat Mel, whoever. Even do an intergender match. Have them beat the shit out of Luther. You could have did something where it got these women over and then you broke up the Nightmare Collective. Instead of just, like quitting it cold turkey, because now, 90% of the fans, well, I'm not trying to insult AEW fans, but they probably just forgave it because they're all, just marks. They're happy to see AEW on TV and they're happy that they actually listen to them. So they're probably just going to, be like, oh, that's fine. But I would have, to the rest of us, it's like, it doesn't make sense to just cut an angle cold turkey. You could have done something with it. Like I said, booked it at Revolution, Chris Statlander versus Brandy. Give me a 10-minute match. Boom, Chris Statlander wins. Nightmare Collective is done. Give me something. But instead, they just kind of, like I said, killed the cold turkey. But it is what it is. At least we won't have to see it anymore. And maybe we can see Brandy Rhodes at ringside with Cody, which would, in my opinion, make Cody a little bit more tolerable for me, if you know what I'm saying. So then we get MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman versus Jungle Boy. And this was a pretty good match for TV. It's one of those things where, of course, just seeing this, you knew Jungle Boy wasn't going to win, which was unfortunate. And like I said, the Jurassic Express, I keep saying that there's people who are untouchable. as in the sense where like they can lose, and every time they're on TV they'll get a pop, and that's the whole Jurassic Express. But that's soon going to reach a point where, I mean, it's already reached that point where it's predictable. It's like you see him, and it's like, oh, he's probably going to lose. There's not many matches that they're going to win, especially if it's a tag team match and he's with Marco Stunt. If it's a tag team match and it's just him and Luchasaurus, they're probably going to win. If it's a tag team match with all three, you know Marco's going to be the one tagged in, and he's going to eat the pin. So, like, I mean, the whole combination of these three guys is usually predictable how it's going to work out, and unfortunately, it was the same thing here. So Jungle Boy, he quickly takes down MJF, but MJF gets up, he shoulder blocks Jungle Boy to the mat, and then he does the Ric Flair strut. And then we get some back and forth action, a lot of reversals, pin attempts, but at the end, we get 2 kip ups for a stalemate. And then Jungle Boy pushes MJF out of the ring, and MJF collects himself, but then MJF gets back in the ring and he tries for a handshake, but Jungle Boy spits in his hand, and then he hits a springboard arm drag on MJF. MJF gets pissed. He pulls Jungle Boy out of the ring before throwing him into the barricade. The crowd boos MJF. Jungle Boy comes into the ring, and MJF comes at him, and he gets sent over the top rope. And then MJF, he pops up at Jungle Boy, clotheslines him out of the ring. And then Jungle Boy hits MJF with a series of suicide dives. And then before he hits a top rope Con Hilo to the outside. Or Tope Con Hilo, excuse me. And then he puts MJF back in the ring before nailing a reverse Rana to the head of MJF. And then he goes for the cover, but MJF kicks out. And then MJF up in the corner, Jungle Boy comes at him before he moves out of the way. And then Jungle Boy, he crashes. And then MJF goes for a second rope, or goes to the second rope. But Jungle Boy surprises him with a power bomb. And then MJF is on the bottom rope. And out of nowhere, Wardlow comes. He comes in and he puts the AEW diamond ring in MJF's hand. Jungle Boy goes to pick up MJF, but he nails him with that, that big ring on his finger. Then he quickly ditches the ring, and he picks up Jungle Boy and hits the double cross for the win. So then after the match, Wardlow comes in the ring. He puts Jungle Boy on his shoulders before helicoptering him to the mat. So, like I said, it was a decent match. Both these guys are talented. Jungle Boy's extremely talented. I like his moveset and everything he does more, and I think just like his in-ring talent is better than MJF. But MJF, he is the heel character. He knows when to do like the strut, all that stuff. He goes to shake Jungle Boy's hand, There's all that like little bit of heel tactics and shit that he does that like really adds to his character. I feel like MJF is one of the greatest commodities that AEW has, but just Jungle Boy is just so talented, and that's the thing. Like, that's why I feel the crowd's behind him. Ultimate baby face. But, like, you hate to see him just lose. Like, to get an upset win here wouldn't have made sense storyline-wise, because it's like, okay, you have MJF lose, and all this stuff. So it wouldn't have made any sense. And he did get the cheap victory here, using the diamond ring to his advantage, Wardlow, and all that stuff. So Jungle Boy's still protected, but it would be nice to see him get a win at some point soon. And then we get a video package for Pac, and he's training. And he said that the word on the street is that Omega has been on the decline. And he said that Omega hasn't been the same since he choked him out in Chicago. And he said that that's why Kenny has been ignoring his friends. Pac said in 2 weeks, Kenny will be a lucky bastard because he gets to go 30 minutes with the best in the world. So that's, for their Iron Man match. And then they also announced that next week, the Lucha Bros will go against Omega and Page for the tag team titles. And, I think they're going to do my boys dirty. I don't see the Lucha Bros winning that. And then we get Dustin Rhodes versus Jake Hager, was made official for Revolution. Good match. I'm excited to see that, just to see Jake Hager finally wrestle and to see Dustin Rhodes. Those are both two big guys. They're both 6'5", 6'6", whatever they are. So that'll be a good match to see them. Like Jim Ross says, that'll be a slobber knocker. And then they also announced there's going to be, I'm not sure if that's next week or in 2 weeks. But there is that tag team battle royal. So pretty much all those teams that you saw in the beginning in that opening segment, they're going to be in this battle royal, and that's going to be to determine the number one contenders for the tag team championship. So that I feel is going to be the Young Bucks. And then that's what I think, at Revolution, it'll be the Young Bucks versus, Page and Omega. And I can see Page eating the pin, and Omega tries to console him. And that's when he's like, screw you, blah, blah, blah. And then that's what's going to jumpstart their feud. Or pretty much kick off their feud into them actually feuding instead of Kenny just kind of defending his partner. So then we get a video package that recapped Moxley and Santana eye injury angles. You get a video package sit-down interview with Jim Ross and Santana. Not bad stuff, but it's like, let's get into the match, because that's, we were waiting for, but I feel like it was going to be more of the same, and this was also a predictable thing. They did some interesting stuff to kind of switch it up, make it a little different than the Ortiz match, but, the ending and everything that happened after the match was over, to me, was pretty predictable. So then, like I said, before the match even gets started, Moxley and Santana, they're brawling on the outside. Moxley sent Santana back to the outside with a clothesline. Then he hit another clothesline off the post to the floor. And then Santana hit a drop toe hold onto the steps, and then teased spiking Moxley's good eye into the edge of the steps. Santana continued to go after the good eye with strikes during the final commercial break. Moxley uses a Fujiwara armbar and then a release German suplex. Santana hits a flatliner onto the second buckle, ducked under a rebound lariat, and then hit a cutter for a near fall. Santana then hit a pile driver for a 2 count. Santana tried to go for a frog splash, but Moxley got his knees up, and then Ortiz got on the apron and teased hitting Moxley with a loaded sock, but Moxley moved and Santana knocked Ortiz to the floor. And then Moxley used a schoolboy for a 2 count. Santana hit a super kick, and then Moxley hit a lariat and then climbed to the top rope. Ortiz drank from a flask, and then, hopefully it was a little bit of the bubbly. And then he spit that into into Moxley's good eye. So Moxley was pretty much blind at this point. So then both guys, they're kind of like, Moxley's just swinging like a wild man. He can't really see what's going on. And then Moxley bit Santana's eye, and then he hit the paradigm shift for the win. So kind of once he was swinging, and then he figured out where he was, he grabbed Santana, boom. Like I said, he bit him, paradigm shift, and done. So then afterwards, Ortiz jumped in, and immediately after the bell, and he went after Moxley's good eye. Guevara and Hager ran in. They continued to attack Moxley. Jericho then entered, and he was whipping Moxley with the belt. Guevara hit a 360. A 630, and then Jericho, he hit the Judas effect, and then with the inner circle standing over Moxley, Jericho beckons towards the stage. Jeff Cobb comes out, so that was cool. We got to see him. I wasn't expecting to see him in this episode. I was thinking maybe next week. So that was the only really cool part about the beatdown. I figured he was going to get beat down after the match, but to see Jeff Cobb was pretty cool. So he comes down, he hits a Tour of the Islands on Moxley, and then posed with the inner circle as the show goes off the air. So like I said, this was a really good show. The only thing that I kind of complained about was the Britt Baker promo. Let's see something a little different. And then it's predictable for the Young Bucks. They always stand tall. Every tag team match they're in. I said, to me, it's like Roman Reigns. When they come out, it's like, oh, here we go. Roman, he just does that weird strike, palm punch to everybody and spear. That's Roman's MO, and the same thing with the Young Bucks. They come out, they're going to drop kick everybody, they're going to super kick everybody, they're going to strike their pose, and they're going to stand tall. And, it's the same thing. And it's once a guy is he becomes Superman like that, I'll call him, he's just unbeatable, is when we don't like him. If we would see the Young Bucks get beat down a little more. I mean, they lost in the beginning when AEW first started, the first couple weeks. They were kind of like Kenny. They weren't winning all the time. And it was like, oh, we're getting behind these guys. The tag team tournament, they had the upset loss to Private Party. And then it's like, okay, okay. But then ever since then, it's just been like win, 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 win. And then, they might lose to SCU, or they lose to one of these teams here. I believe they lost to SCU in the title defense right before the new year. So it's like, yeah, they do have these losses, but, that's against their friends. Then when you bring in new teams like Butcher and Blade and stuff like that, they pretty much squash these guys. And it's like, that's not how you build tag teams. So, like I said, I see them winning that tag team battle royal. And at least for me, that all makes sense storyline-wise. And then the Young Bucks, they can have their title reign. And to me, they need to drop it to a team like, Santana and Ortiz or someone like that. Get them over. And then I think, they can hold it, and then maybe the Jurassic Express beats them because they have some heat with the inner circle, the Jurassic Express. So then when they get it, then I feel like the Jurassic Express, maybe they lose it to the Lucha Bros. If I'm long-term booking this thing, that's kind of the path I would take this down. But we'll see where they go. Because, the Dark Order, they should have tag team gold, I feel, at some point. So the tag team division is loaded. Like I said, it was just kind of a weird turn. You had this path that they were going down, and then oh, let's give it to the singles guys of Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. So that kind of took it off course a little bit, but it seems like it's just to set up the Hangman and Kenny Omega feud, and also for a way that SCU could lose the tag belts, and then the tag belts can go to the Young Bucks, but it's not SCU losing to the Young Bucks for the tag belts. Maybe they want to save that match, that money match later on down the line, even though I did say earlier we have seen it before. I don't know what their booking decisions are, but like I said, overall, it was a great show. I don't really have any major complaints. It was 2 hours of enjoyable wrestling. Like I said, the Darby Allin promo was good. And, Riho, like I said, I respected her a little more in this match. We saw some more moves, some offense. I wish we would have seen that her whole title run, but we didn't. It's unfortunate, but hey, get in line. I'm sure you'll be champion again, like I said. And of course, the great tag team match to open the show. I have no complaints about that match. Just like I said, the grabbing the ropes was a little funky for me because they didn't really touch on it, because I think it was some kind of botch or the timing was off. And also, SCU is going to be in that Battle Royal, so they might get a chance again, to face to face Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, but I don't see it happening. So that was the review for the show, guys. Please, if you haven't, subscribe if you're new. Give the video a like, comment. Tell me what you thought. Did you like the opening match as much as I did? Did you think that grabbing the rope spot was a little weird? What do you think of Jeff Cobb? What do you like? Just, give me your thoughts on the show. I really like to hear with you guys. We like to interact. Juan, he always responds to the comments. That's his personal account. So if you're wondering, what's going on, like, who's this guy who comments on all the things? It's Juan on his account. So if you comment back to him, you're talking to Juan. You're not talking to just some stranger on the internet. And, but like I said, we're all family here. So anybody who comments, you're all part of our family. You're not a stranger. So don't ever feel that way. And, follow us on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We got it all. We got it all right there. So please follow us on those platforms. And, we just want to say thank you guys for watching. And of course, if you haven't checked out all the other stuff already, Monday Night Raw review I have up there. We're going to have NXT tonight. And we're going to have, unfortunately, we got to do Smackdown on Friday, an awful show. I'm not expecting anything good. But then, we're going to have previews and predictions for Portland. Of course, the review for Portland, if not Sunday night, early Monday morning, we'll have it Monday afternoon before Monday, or Monday, late afternoon, early night. We'll have it for you. It just depends on the scheduling that we have. So, we have plenty of stuff coming, more interviews. And like I said, we're going to be at the Chamber. So we have all this great stuff coming for you guys. And we're really excited. And, non-wrestling stuff as well. Video game stuff Juan has up there. So please, check all that out. We're really excited. And the future is bright for Rope Break. So we're